with Victoria Phillips, who I've been in touch with, I don't know, like a year and something, 2 years, time blurs.
Yeah, yes.
Welcome, Victoria. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Louise. It's great to be here. I am happy to join this program. I've been wanting to join this program for a very long time since it
Bravo.
started.
Bravo. Well, you have an open invite, especially because you're doing really interesting and important work. And I know I personally always enjoy learning about it. Victoria, today we're going to talk about social impact bonds. And what I love about it is that you've actually arranged, like, you have practical experiences, not just a bunch of theory, which is what you usually get. Like, you've been there in the halls of the city council trying to get one of these. So if you'd like to tell us about your firm and your career, yourself a little bit, and about the work that you're going to share with us today, that would be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, my name is Victoria Phillips, and I work with nonprofit organization. I help nonprofits with prospects research. I help with fundraising and also social impact bond, which I'll be talking about today. I'm so excited about that. Mostly, I coach nonprofits, especially the development team on some of the fundraising tactics and practices that they need to incorporate in their development. So I love to be here. I love to talk about the social impact band, and I'm so happy that I have this opportunity to be here. So that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Victoria. Where are you based out of, and what type of nonprofits do you most commonly work with?
Good question. So I am in San Diego, California.
Lovely.
Most of my clients are small, medium nonprofit organization. So medium, small, and fairly, coming up large,
Mhm.
organization.
Okay, that's fantastic. So, how tell us, like, the origin story of your work with social impact bonds, because you've talked about fundraising council and helping on the fundraising side of things. Social impact bonds is a way to finance, but I guess it's not technically fundraising. How did you get started in all of this?
Okay, good. So I stumble into social impact.
Yeah.
I am a risk. I am a risk taker.
Hmm.
I like to experiment,
Hmm.
especially when uh you know you have clients that have great mission, great program that is changing the community, but they don't
Hmm.
have enough funding to be able to push to drive their mission. It's painful to watch, especially
Hmm.
working with small, medium nonprofit. They struggle with fundraising a lot too. So
Hmm.
you just need to look at what other ways aside the traditional fundraising that can help. So that is how
Hmm.
I come about the social impact. But so I have one of my clients that work with education in the health sector, and I also have some of my clients that work with the housing. So I felt this is just a great way to see how we can look at other conventional fundraising to be able to drive their program, to be able to raise fund for their program. So I stumbled on it, and I read a lot about it, and I I have a non-profit that was ready to say, okay, let's give it a dry run. Let's see how it goes. Let's test drive this and see what it's
Uh-huh.
about. And then we had a success out of it. So I'm excited
Awesome.
about
So
that.
I'm ready to share your slides whenever you are, Victoria. If you'd like me to get started, and then as we go through it, just say next when you want the next slide, and I'll put it on the screen. So tell me if you can see it.
I can see it
Lo-
perfectly. This is
Lovely.
great. This is lovely. All right. So welcome if you're joining this program. I'm excited to be here, and I'm going to be talking about the practical guide to social impact for nonprofit. I hope that you're going to learn one or two things, and this is going to be useful for your nonprofit. So, can you go to the first slide, please? Yes. So you might ask, so what is social impact bond? What is for the purpose of this program? I'll call
Hmm.
it SIB so that it can be easy. Social impact bond is a contract, from private investors provide upfront capital for public services that are
Hmm.
delivered by service provider, usually non-profit. So the repayment to investor is contingent on achieving an agreed outcome. So it
Okay.
is often referred to as pay for sources. So you might want to say, who is this person? Who is Victoria? That's why I put this my picture so that you can understand a little bit about me, where I'm coming from. I've been working with non-profit organization for 3 to 4 years now, and most of my clients, like I mentioned earlier, are small but mighty non-profit that really into the community, really doing so much things, and they really, really want to make changes. So that is about me. So I hope you learn about me a little bit. And I'm on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to connect with you. Let's go to the next slide.
Awesome. And if you give me a website address, I'll put it on the screen before we're done.
Okay, awesome. I'll give you my website address. So let me introduce you to social impact bond. Some of you are hearing this term for the very first time,
Mhm.
and you might want to say, what is it? What is it all about? So it's a three-way contract between a private investors, between a public sector organization, which is the outcome payer and the service provider. So, who is the private investor? Investors are people that are interested in the non-profit services. They have the means, they have the money, they want to see a particular change and they want to invest, of course, and they are looking for, investors. They want return on investment,
Mhm.
and the public sector organization are the government organization, the government entity. Let's say like the state of California. Let's say with their different sector. Let's say the housing, uh, California Housing Department of Housing, California Department
Mhm.
of Housing. So they can be an organization that is interested in a particular outcome, and then you, the nonprofit, that have the services, that have the program, and you believe so much in the program. So it's a three-way contract. So the investor fund the service delivery by the nonprofit, and it is
Mhm.
agreed upon that there's going to be a certain social outcome that will be achieved. So the social sector, the public sector, repay the investors with a return. So the public sector, which is the government entity, have to pay after the social outcome is agreed. So the SIB present an exciting approach to funding preventive, innovative program that aim to solve pressing social issues, like education, like housing, like a prison system. So all these programs and many more are what social impact bond kind of suitable for.
Mhm.
So to understand the basic of social impact, I want you to please move to the second slide, please. So to understand the basic of social impact bond, we need to look at how it functions. We need to look at the performance metric. The SIB model operate through a three-way contract, like I've said. The investors, the public sector organization, and the service provider. So the step one of it is you attracting the investors. So the process begin with a non-profit presenting, just like a traditional fundraising. You present a strong case for support for your program. Let's say you are into education, or maybe you are into health. You have to present a strong case for your program. You have to be able to convince investors of the potential of significant social impacts, and of course a financial returns on on their investment. So it's not just about selling an idea, it's about demonstrating a clear pathway to success. You need to have data and evidence to show that this will really work. Like one of my clients, she work with she provide a CNA training for refugees. She provide training for migrants, CNA training, and other health training for migrants. So she has been having non-profit has been having success in training, and also that has really helped boost the health sector. A lot of CNAs has been recruited, and we need nurses. So she has been having success in doing that. So that is one of our case for support, the result of our trainings, the result of the refugees and asylum seekers she has been training. That is what she put into our case for support. So the second step is the performance metric. So after securing the investment, so it's all about delivery, it's all about success, and it's not just about measuring the time or the action, it's about the outcome. In the case of that, my client, she was able to provide that, to make a strong case that excuse me, between number of years, she can actually help the health sector recruit and train certain number of people. So the outcome is actually there. So the party has to agree on the performance from the onset. The goals has to be clear about from the non-profit, and how to measure the success has to be there. So the third step is evaluation, the impact evaluation. So the final piece of this puzzle is the rigorous impact evaluation. This involves collecting and analyzing data to determine whether the agreed social outcome has been achieved. This step is very crucial because it drives accountability. It also enable the public sector to determine when the payment to the investors is due. Remember, after the non-profit provide their case for support and to the investors give the non-profit money to carry out the social impact. They provide the money, and they are expecting their money back with interest. So the government, the public sector step in to say, if the non-profit can provide these services and you have this outcome is achieved, then we're going to be able to give this investor back their money with interest. So that is the three pieces of what it involved with social impact bond. Can you move to the next slide, please?
Yep.
So if you have any question, please just put it in the chat. I'll be more than happy, or just hold on after the presentation. There will be time to ask questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer question. So we're going right now to how do you identify investment opportunity, who is going to be the target audience, the program evaluation. We're going to go into that. So once your firm understand the social impact bond, how it works, and the next step is to identify potential investors, right? Who is going to invest in our program? Who is going to invest? Who is going to believe in us? Who is going to invest in our services? So this involves, considering your target audience, evaluating your program, leveraging your existing network. For the case of my client, the one that have work with housing, so the developers was actually the investors for their services. The developers was really interested in their program. They wanted to see the change, and they believed so much in the services that my client was rendering, and they felt that they can actually meet the outcome. So they were the one that step in to become an investor. So to get an investor, you have to understand your program. You have to understand those that those that believe in it. So you have to look at that. So you need to understand your audience, which is very critical. This is not only referring to the beneficiary of your services, but also your potential investors. By identifying the social issue that matters to them most, just like in fundraising, the traditional fundraising. You have your donor, and there is a reason why the donor give, right? The donor give because they are interested in seeing the change. The same thing align with social impact. Your investors needs to be the audience that are interested in seeing that some social issues, there's a change in some social issue that we have in the society, so that your program can align with your outcome. So it make more attractive. Your investors, we call them investors, but in traditional fundraising, we know they are donors. So, but these people are going to receive their money back, and they are also going to receive it with interest, but they wanted to see some certain changes happening in the society. So, and your program evaluation. So the next step is after evaluating your existing program, you want to be able to look at which of your program you can actually measure, have a measurable result, has a meaningful outcome that will attract investors. This is very critical. I know we have a lot of program, but you need to know which of it will it have a measurable impact, which of it will attract investors. So which of it has a track record of success, which of it have a track record of success, and which of it is have a strong evidence to suggest. So a well-evaluated program stand a better chance of attracting investors. When you have a well-evaluated program, that stand a better chance of attracting investors. So again, looking at your existing network, is also critical, is also key. A lot of donors that have been giving or that have given in the past, or the lapsed donors, might want to connect back or want to make a connection to philanthropists, to to corporate social responsibility programs, and other want to also be partners, or they want to invest. This is what we've seen in a lot of big non-profit, a lot of large non-profits that we have today. They are incorporating SIB into their programs. So you need to look at your relationship also with the government. So some government have grant opportunities, or they have some programs that they might want to use as an SIB. Right now, we've seen a lot of government organization, considering SI, because they really want to give the money to see a social change happening in the society. So finally, you want to look at your financial visibility. You want to see that you want to estimate the cost, how much it's going to cost for the next 5 years. Excuse me, for the next 10 years to be able to drive a particular change in the community. You want to estimate the cost of your service so that you can be able to evaluate, the cost that is going to cost the social service and also the investors. Excuse me, I have cough. I'm just trying to feel to soften my.
Victoria, we woke you up at the crack of dawn out
Yes,
on the West Coast, and
yeah,
it's
I'm on the
yeah,
west
it's
Coast.
not
I'm just
sitting
trying
well. I apologize.
to. Excuse me.
No rush. I'm exploding with questions. So I also invite anybody who's on the call who has questions themselves to just start typing them in. And Victoria will do as a good job as he can in the time that we have.
Absolutely. So social impact is bond is not just about finding investors, it's also about finding the right investors for your program and also ensuring the deal work well for every party that is involved.
Mhm.
For my nonprofit that I worked with, I'm sharing two examples. One of them, we actually made the investors to become very involved with the organization, that they become mentors to the
Mhm.
to the students.
Nice.
So this help to be able to bring in, collaboration and also, carry them along as the program, evolve. I can't see my slide again. I think I still
Oh,
have.
I took them off because it was so interesting. Victoria, can I interrupt and ask you a couple of questions, and then maybe we continue with the presentation?
Yes,
Okay, and hopefully
absolutely.
this motivates some of you who are here with us today to start chatting in, typing in. And if you find value in this, do the LinkedIn or the Facebook, wherever you are, that share thing, or give it some love. It will be greatly appreciated. We think this is actually very important and helpful information
Yes,
for nonprofits. Victoria, so you imagine you're a nonprofit and you're interested in this. What, like, how do you even get started? Because probably, I mean, I'm going to guess, right? But probably your CFO, if you have a CFO, doesn't know a lot about this. Like, it's going to take a little bit of learning.
absolutely. It takes a lot of learning. It takes, so if you are here and you want me to make this presentation to your board or to your CFO or to your
Hmm.
executive director, I'm more than happy to do this. It takes a lot of learning, and I have a book about it. I put it in the slide. I put my journey into social impact bond into
It's coming,
into a
right?
book. Yeah, into no, I put it in the private chat. In
Oh,
the private
okay. Great, 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 great.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
on the screen for everybody. So if you're here with
Yes,
us, check
absolutely.
out Victoria's book. Um, yeah, so then
So
okay, so there's a lot to learn. Like, it's going to be
there's
a
a
little
lot.
bit of a learning curve. That's
Yes, it's a lot of learning. One, you
okay.
have to have a program that you can actually measure the impact.
Uh-huh.
You need a program that is measurable. That is it. You
Mhm.
have to start with a program. Your program must be able to make a particular social change in the community. I've
Okay.
cited an example of one of my clients that work with refugees. She trained them to become a nurse, a
Mhm.
CNA.
Uh-huh. Very easy to
So,
measure, right? They either become a nurse or not.
yes, so that is measurable, right? You
Hmm.
can be able to say this is the number of people that have been trained to become CNA within this period of time.
Okay.
So you need a program like that.
And Victoria,
And
you mentioned government partners in social impact bonds. Does this mean that there are that the gov, that any level of government, local, municipal, federal, whatever, says we're interested in this area, we're looking at social impact bonds in this type of work? Like, how do you find out about these opportunities?
absolutely. Most governments at every level right now, because of the sources and because of the fact that social impact bond is actually success driven, they are getting attracted to
Hmm.
it right now.
Okay.
You see that most nonprofit right grants, some grants that they've been getting for years, they stopped getting it
Yep.
because social impact bond is now coming up right now. They really want to see a change. And for you having an investor that says, we believe in your program, shows to the government entity that your program can actually drive change.
Hmm.
So it's right now becoming something they are interested in. Government at every level. We've seen an example, and I have it in my slide. Some of the successful that social impact bond that is right now is a well-known, sources that the government have stepped in. Instead of providing grants, they have actually said, look for investors. We are going to pay your investors after your outcome has been achieved. So it's right
Okay.
now what is getting most governments motivated to go into partnership with most nonprofits.
Okay. And I imagine people can learn about this if they Google it, and they'll see I guess there's listings for this type of thing out there. Like the information is out there.
Yes, the information, there are case studies, there are informations about it. And like I mentioned earlier, I can actually come into any organization to talk about it and to go in depth to answer questions if they have about social
Hmm.
impact.
Okay, that's great. Do you find, so you mentioned that some parts are a little bit like fundraising, but other parts are, not so much. They're like investing and ESG, and like there's like all types of investing going on in the world
So
right now.
there is no fundraising to this.
Hmm.
The only fundraising that is that the investors, they actually are the one giving you, they can be your donors. I make
Exactly.
an example of one of my clients that is into housing. He wants to build some housing. The investors in that case was actually the community, the property developers.
Hmm.
They were the investors because they want to see more affordable housing. So they
Okay.
are the one that become an investors. So it's good to look at your donors, your corporate sponsors, and ask them if they want to invest so that you can have an investors and you can go to the government and say, I have an investors. They are ready to invest for the next 5 years to see these changes happen in the community. They are ready to
Hmm.
invest to see more affordable house built in California. So what do we do? And the government said, okay, if you can build more affordable housing and you get families off the streets, then we're going to give you the investors after this so year. So you go into partnership and
Hmm.
make the change happen.
Have you found that this attracts a different type of person than regular philanthropic, donors? Or or maybe the same people, but like a different pot of, I mean, to say it kind of crassly, right? A different pot of money, right? The money that they have for investment rather than the money that they had for philanthropy. Have you? I mean, that's some of the things I've read about this space. Did you find that too?
Yes, absolutely. So many people are interested for many reasons. Some because they wanted the return on their money, instead of
Hmm.
just giving the money to non-profit and getting okay, we are donors. They wanted to be an investor because it's return on their investment, and also they get to make interest. And
Hmm.
they are donors, if you look at it literally, because they put the money down to say, take this money and make change happen.
Hmm.
So they are interested in so many reasons why they are interested. Some because they want to the social change, another might be because they want return on investment, and again because they are interested in the work that your organization is doing, and they've been in your a donor, or they've been partner for several years, and they really want to see a change. So
Fascinating. Thank you, Victoria. Okay, I'm sorry for the interruption. Let's go back to our regularly programmed information. I'll put the slides up back on. Excuse myself.
okay, thank you so much for putting the slide back. So thank you everyone that is finding this interesting. So the next slide is I was talking about this, and to recap, we're looking at how you can build the social impact, how you can put all the pieces together. So the next slide, please. The next slide. Absolutely. So here we are going to look at measuring the outcome and the success. How do you measure the outcome? How do you measure the success of your social impact bond? So it involves a lot of collecting data. You know, when investors come into the program, they wanted to achieve a result. And you are already agreed. My client agreed to train uh, refugees to become CNA and give them all the tools they need to become successful nurse for the next 5 years. And they agree on a certain number. So that must, the outcome must be, you must have a data that you can analyze. You must have an agreed social benefits that will be achieved. And you also have to agreed on the type of data that will be collected. That will depend on the nature of the program and the outcome. So there's so many ways to measure, but it has to depend on the nature of the program and also the outcome. I want you to remember that it's not about measuring activities or output, but rather is a longer term benefits or the result from these activities that matters. So it's about the changes. You know, it's like the example of my client, it has a ripple effect. You know, the refugee has been trained to become a CNA, they become employed, and there's a lot of social impact to that. We have more nurses, of course, and these people are gainfully employed. So there's a lot of things to it. There's a lot of impact to be measured. So although this might seem daunting, remember that focusing on outcome is one of the strengths of SIB model. It encourages nonprofits to focus on what truly matters, making a difference in people's life, and giving them the tools to demonstrate their effectiveness. So let's look at the last slide, or second to the last one. Okay, so the next slide is so we know it has a lot of risks. You know, how do you address the risk? Like any significant undertaking, SIB present potential risks and challenges. There are three crucial areas that nonprofit should focus their attention on when it comes to risks: sustainability, cost, and evaluation. So SIB are so often designed to deliver long-term social outcome. So therefore, it's essential to consider the sustainability of the program beyond the life of the bond. If the bond is 5 years, it's good to be able to consider that after 5 years, I just mentioned, building affordable housing. That goes beyond, let's say the life of the bond is 10 years. It goes beyond that. And I also mentioned about another client that have a program that train people to become a CNA. That goes beyond the life of the bond. So sustainability is key. The program or the outcome must be sustainable. So this might involve securing ongoing funding, developing a scalable model and ensuring that the program become embedded in public sector provision. If you are familiar with grant opportunity, you know that there's so much money right now in training opportunities. There's a lot of grants in training, especially in the health sector. So that make SIB attractive to the government organization to say we want a change, we want to see this happening. Another one is the cost. The cost of setting up and managing a social impact bond can be costly. This cost can also include negotiation. It involves a legal fee, service delivery, measuring outcome, impact evaluation. So all of these fees make SIB very costly. So it's vital to account for this financial model and ensure that the potential return justify the costs. The last one is evaluation. The cross of SIB lie in evaluation. That is the logic behind it. Rigorous data collection, analyzing are needed to determine whether the agreed upon social outcome has been achieved and to trigger the repayments to the investors. So non-profit must have a robust system in place for this evaluation or be prepared to bring in external evaluators to evaluate their program. So addressing these potential challenge and risks on non-profit are likely to increase their likelihood of getting an SIB, achieving this intended outcome, and also providing a return to investors. This proactive approach can ensure that a long-term success of SIB and the sustainability of the program is found. I have seen that non-profits, and I will go to the last slide, which is the case studies. And that's the case studies. You can Google them. They are on the internet. They are successful, and they really help driving change in this society. So these are the successful ones that are out there that have a lot of their case study put together, and a lot of result has been achieved. So these are case study to better illustrate how SIB work. So these are how corporate non-profit are turning to social impact bond and slowly turning away from traditional fundraising. So these are real world example that can help on this, that can help you with a deeper understanding of the mechanism, the benefit, and also the challenges of how social impact bond works. So I hope you find all this case study very well grounded, and also, like I've been mentioning in the course of my talking, I've been talking about my own experience also, which I think can also be very useful to medium, not too big non-profit that wanted to, on a smaller scale, want to consider social impact bond. So that is it. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Victoria. This was so great. You mentioned something that was interesting to me. You said that you think there's a trend of
Mhm.
fundraising evolving into more financial like instruments like this.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
How are you like? How are you seeing this play out? And where are you seeing that? And why do you say that essentially?
Well, we've seen a lot of sources and a lot of government organization and non-profit. The conversation is coming up right now. There's a conversation around it because of the sources and because of the investors are
Hmm.
interested, and so there's now
Hmm.
a conversation right now, and people are hush hush talking about how they can, how this is driving changes, how this is make a lot of sense more than traditional fundraising, because we all know fundraising is a lot of outgoing, a lot of burnouts, a lot of and
Hmm.
constantly asking. But this help to kind of put an halt into fundraising. It helped put an halt into the traditional fundraising. It gives nonprofits a breathing space to be able to have concentrate on their program. They will have enough money
Mhm.
and they can concentrate on what they know how to do best instead of constantly going after donors, after the
Mhm.
programs and campaign. They'll have money, and this is the money. Go do what you think you can do. So this help them to actually sit down and not have to worry about money. So we've seen the success is there. A lot of people right now are talking about it. The government entity are talking about it. Private investor are giving a listening here. So I think this is what is coming up right now. This is what we are seeing. This is the trend right now.
Thank you, Victoria, and thank you for bringing this kind of cutting edge trend to us, which we might not have heard about otherwise. And, when this becomes a huge thing and it's in the Chronicle of Philanthropy, remember, you heard it here with Victoria Phillips first.
Yeah.
Um, I invite everybody to check out your book. That's there. We have a good question from Jeanette. She says, we have a small budget and just got a small grant to support volunteer management and stewardship on a new database. I'm researching now to attract investment to continue supporting this volunteer retention project. Can I use that SIB model? How might that work for a two-person staff, an organization that's as small as having two people?
Absolutely. This is a very good question. Thank you so much, Jeanette. Yes. So first, you need to look at your program, like I mentioned during the course of this training, that the program has to have an outcome. There needs to be a measurable outcome. That is the key point in getting investors. So it's not about two staff. No, it doesn't matter. I don't think that matter. What matter is your program. Does it have a measurable impact? Can it kind of drive huge changes in the community, in the society? What have you seen? What changes is it going to make? I make mention of the housing and also the training of of nurses, of refugees, becoming a nurse. So it must be something that can measure even outside the SIB model. It must have a ripple effect in the society. So if the program have that, or if you can strengthen that, then it's easy to be able to convince the investors to say this is the end result. This is where we are going to be in the next 10 years. This is where society will be if you invest this money in us. This is what you're going to see in the society in the next 10 years. And this is what is going to happen when this program has been implemented. So that is the key. It's not the number of staff you have, but the kind of program that you have that can drive change.
I have
I
a
hope,
question,
yes,
and thank you. Very helpful, Victoria. And you mentioned that this was a three-part model, right? Where you
yes,
have the investors, the nonprofit, and then the third part of,
the government.
financial facilitator, whatever you want to call it. In
Mhm,
some of your examples, it was a government. In others, it wasn't. I saw Goldman Sachs there.
mhm. Yeah.
How would somebody like Jeanette on her team even start that conversation with that third party? Because I think, like, approaching investors, I can more or less grab my I can grapple with, and making a program more measurable, I think lots of places can take steps in that direction, but it's that third leg that I see lots of people having questions about.
The third leg is easy. Jeanette make an example that she got a small grant.
Hmm.
That is, if she got an investors ready to say, I'm going to invest in your program,
Hmm.
she can go back to the government entity that gave her the grant to say, I have investors. They are ready to invest for the next 10 years.
Hmm.
And this is how much it's going to cost me to run this program for the next 10 years. Will
Hmm.
you? give the investors back after 10 years. I'm just citing this up. I don't know how long it's going to cost Jeanette to for the
Sure.
program. I'm just making this up. Will you give my investors after 10 years that we've done this their money back with interest? This is like a grant, because instead of you giving me the grant right now, save it,
Mhm.
put it in the bank. Let the investor give me the money. Let them give me the
Mhm.
money. Let them invest in me, and they also can become part of my program. Because of course, when where your investment is, your mind is always there. The investors doesn't just give you the money and walk away, and they become part. They become interested. They wanted to hear from you. Just like
Yeah.
the donor. So it's a win-win for Jeanette, and also for the government to say, okay, we can keep our money in the bank. It's
Mhm.
getting more interest, and we want to see what Jeanette can do and a program can do for the community, for the society. We want to see the long term. We want to see the ripple effect. We want to see more people coming into Jeanette program. So it's more corporate organization. Instead of giving the money now, they can
Mhm.
budget for it in advance and make the money available for investor to return back when the outcome has been achieved.
Okay. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Super helpful. Well, Jeanette and everybody else who was here, last call for questions. You have an expert in a topic that I don't think lots of people know a lot about. And so Victoria has kindly agreed to share some of her time and expertise with us today. If you want to see this as a recording later on, you can do so on whatever platform you're on. You can also do it at the link that's right there on the screen over here. Joindpp.org/resource library. If you just landed here and you don't know who these two crazy people are, Victoria Phillips from Phillips Consulting does work
Yes.
with small and medium-sized nonprofits in resource development, I think broadly understood, some focus on fundraising, and now also focus on social impact bonds. And then Lewis here, host of the Donor Participation Project. It's a community of now over 2,800 fundraisers. We get together every month. We talk about interesting topics like this because we're trying to find solutions to grow donor participation. So, Victoria, it's been wonderful to have you with us. I'm super grateful. I hope we can do this again.
Yes. I hope we can do this again. I have fun here, and thank you everyone for joining. I have a book. Don't forget to check out my book. And if you want me to pitch this your organization, I'm more than happy to do that. To come into your organization to talk about this, to kind of get the conversation started. So I'm more than happy to do this. Thank you so much for bringing me here, Luis. Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. Everybody, the book is right there, phillipsconsult.com/social impact bond. And you could do even one better than the book is bring Victoria in and she'll explain everything there is to know about this. See everybody next time. Bye, Victoria. Hope you enjoy the rest of the morning.
Thank you so much. Take care.